Today on Top Gear Rearview, Jeff's not too happy with me.
Son of a bitch, Kirkwood. Hello and welcome to Top Gear Rearview. I'm Jeff, that's Brady. Tonight we're looking at Series 4, Episode 8.
This episode aired on the 18th of July in 2004, and the star in a reasonably priced car was Martin Clunes.
And tonight we start things off with the Maserati Quattroporte, which is actually called the Quattroporte. We have a look back at the Rover V8, which is an interesting engine that had an interesting history that I did not know about, and research was fun on that one. We have a mini challenge with a Skoda diesel, a Fabia BRS versus a Mini Cooper around the track. The long time coming, finally putting around the track of the Ford GT. And at the end of the episode, an oddly tacked on little challenge of blowing cars over with a 747, which was, okay, but yeah, kind of fun.
When I saw the Ford GT was going to go around the track this episode, it was like the real life version of the clap and emoji in texts. I was praising Jeebus.
Yeah, we needed it. I mean, our power laps recently have been a little meh. The Spiker was kind of meh. The Renault Clio Sports was meh. But Ford GT, proper car.
Proper legend.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Quattroporte. There's no way that you came up with that. Is that your thing?
I did. I literally came up with that
right before
saying it.
Dude, that's fantastic. I'm
going to
do nothing but call it Quattroporte this entire episode. Because it's hilarious, because you make
that's what it means.
Like, all of these, like, the Challenge Stradale and the Super Leggera, like the Lamborghini Murcielago Super Leggera, it just means super light.
Yeah. It's just a rough description of the vehicle.
Just brief elevator pitch of what this car is. Well, it's a Murcielago, but it's like light and stuff. All right, we're gonna call it the light and stuff. So this is the Maserati Quattroporte, which is I mean, it's not the tippity top of the Maserati line, but it's probably their bread and butter.
Yeah, this is the bacon of that line. I think they had the Gran Turismo, and I think that one looks way better myself. But and then they had the little the coupe or whatever, and on that one. But yeah, I didn't realize. So we got this car kind of was around, this namesake at least. And this was actually the 5th generation, but there was quite a gap between them. This one started in 2000. Oh, never mind. I'm a dirty liar. 2001 to 2003. The 94 to 2001 looks kind of like a very boring station wagon, or very boring sedan. But you go back in the history of this thing to the 2 and especially the first generation, and it looks good.
Yeah, the Quattroporte 1 looks fantastic. It's got a bit of Aston Martin to it.
It does, yeah.
It's that. It looks really.
It's like 130% DB5.
It's classy. It's totally mafioso,
Oh yeah.
But it looks really good. I like the side-by-side headlights. The little bit of the hood scoop, that's exactly like the DB5. The hood, the line of the top of the car down to the back to the end is all DB. It's fantastic looking.
Yeah, it is. And it's at the time it was the fastest 4-door saloon in the world.
Okay, that's the first gen, yeah.
The first gen, way back in the 60s.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a V8 car since birth. It looks like it's currently got a 4.2 liter with 400 horsepower. He mentioned the gearbox at the back to presumably keep weight down and back, but I was like, do you mean like in the back, or is it just further back than normal? I didn't have a good chance to figure that out.
Is it like halfway back, or is it like gearbox differential?
Gearbox in the trunk. The gearbox is the differential. That'd be weird. I bet you could do it.
You know what? 2 gearboxes. This is the 2.0 Giro, the Maserati 2.0 Giro.
Duo Giro. I don't know. There's got to be a better way to say that.
Yeah, no.
But
yeah, the one of the I remember Top Gear not testing this one. I do remember this one, but later on they get like big time saloons that rich bankers can drive around. so they don't look like they're driving around extremely fancy like Aston Martins and stuff. And the guys loved the way it sounded. They loved that V8 rumble from it.
Oh, yeah.
I think this one still has that. It is a fantastic sounding car, and I'm not usually one who gets all uppity about the way a car sounds. It's just not one of the things that just doesn't throttle me the way it does other guys. But this car sounds good. All of that being said, this car sounds sweet.
Yeah, I agree. When he was driving around Sicily, right?
Yeah, he was down. He was on the Targa Florio. I don't know if Targa Florio. Sorry, he was on the Targa Florio. It's either southern Italy or in Sicily. I can't remember which one.
Yeah, and it's that was kind of cool too. The history of that whole thing. That it was a racetrack of varying lengths from 40 to 700 miles over the course of about 69 years, from 1906 to 1975.
It is Sicily. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it started off as like this just drive around the island of Sicily.
Yeah.
And now it's like this Pikes Peak hill climb. Like the same thing is like Pikes Peak hill climb used to be like this storied, like amazing hill climb through the dirt roads up above the tree line. Now it's like a paved road. It's like half the distance and stuff.
Yeah. It's
just really been shortened down for safety or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, God, the views and the sound they were pretty nice there. And yeah, the Florio was named after, I think, the original guy that lived there and used to race things before other people had cars. He'd race horses, and the horse won.
He said he had a car, and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna race. And then he got in a race with the horse, and the horse beat him, and he's like, it's okay, we'll do it again next year.
Yeah, I'll bring in some more cars. Yeah, James, I think, for the most part, he seemed happy with it. He was not a fan of the gearbox in the city. And this is...
You know what? This car only has a 2 Odoros. I'm going to need at least a 4 Odoros. Sorry,
no,
I heard that joke came in my mind, and I had to cut you off.
You do what you gotta. 4 Odoro is as good as Toro. It's, the transmission is called a Duo Select. Yeah. They got funny. Everything's named weird. Remember that this is the one that has the suspension called Adaptive Skyhook?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird. You could get 15 paint colors, 10 leather hues, contrasting seat piping, and 3 types of wood inserts. That just seems like a lot of options.
The number of leather hues is obsessive.
Yeah.
I think they're excessive.
Yeah,
you're talking about James not liking the gearbox in the city. It kind of... This car lives 2 lives. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a gigantic 4-door saloon car. The 4 Odoro Saloon car. But it wants to be this thoroughbred Italian race car. And James essentially says it only does one of those things well. Yeah. And it's not the one that you would think. It's not this stately city saloon car. Yeah, it's a thoroughbred. It just happens to have 4 Odoros. Yes. And so the gearbox doesn't work in the city. It's like Flappy Paddle, right?
It's the electronically actuated 6-speed, but I got to admit, it's got to be just complicated. Yeah.
James did say something, Jeff, that I hope you caught on and will think the same way I do. He says, this car is amazing. It doesn't have an estate version sullying its bloodline.
Yeah, I did hear that.
And I sat there going, don't you dare, James May, don't you dare.
No diesel, no estate. You diesel wagons are the lifeblood of a car.
This car would only be so lucky to have an estate version.
Yeah, I heard that, and I cringed a little inside, but I understand.
I thought this was a good review. I think James did very well with this one. Generally, James doesn't get new cars to review.
Yeah, he reviews old Rolls Royces and stuff.
Bentleys and whatnot, and Lagonda Aston Martins.
Yeah.
But this was great. He did good. It was a very pretty review. Good-looking car in extremely pretty settings. Something like that southern Italy, Sicily type of area, we don't have much of that in the United States. We have a lot of different geographies, but that's kind of slightly mountainous, but still like dry. It's like a desert, but our deserts are a little too rugged. Mm-hmm. It's very pretty.
Yeah, and it says like random nice green bushes and trees. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It looked good. Yeah, unique.
Let's talk about this Rover V8 engine.
Yeah, what a cool engine. I mean, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, it was all right.
And then the nice thing, like all things British, it started in America. I guess, like all good things British, it started in America, like the royal wedding. Topical.
Oh, Jeff, it's so hot right now.
Do it. Yeah, so this started life as a Buick engine, and it was all aluminum, which is interesting for the time. And that they Hammond went through it a bit and kind of talked about it as if it was like, oh, this GM thing that they were like, they designed it and made it a couple and then just chucked it out in the back. And that's not really what happened, because they had the Buick ones, and then they had the very similar turbocharged Oldsmobile version. And between those two engines, they made like 700,000 of them.
It wasn't so popular. We didn't make many.
Yeah,
I know, right?
700,000. But
what was ultimately demised? I mean, ultimately, I would think that they did get rid of it, or did they license the tools out, or did they sell the tooling?
Well, so
essentially is what happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, the issues were it was an early aluminum engine, so it was expensive to make. It had some sealing issues, and the biggest thing is aluminum blocks and aluminum engines you have to have a compatible coolant, or it can cause clog ups, and that happened a lot apparently. So it did actually. It only had a 2-year life. They have a similar version that has an iron block and alloy head. But and those that there's a V6 derivative as well that actually lived up to 2008. But
oh wow.
Yeah. So there's a Rover guy basically that was in America at the time and said, yeah, give this one a try and see if we can do something with it.
Yeah, Rover was looking for a V8, and the guy was essentially on the hunt for something that could be licensed or brought over to the UK. He liked the all aluminum version because it was light, which means it could fit in their smaller cars. But yeah, and fit into smaller or any car, it sure did. The list of cars that this engine was in was excessive.
Yeah. He started backing away. The camera panned out, and it was like, whoa.
Yeah. There's a list here. I think it's what he went through, but generally we're going to go through it. Obviously, it had a lot of Rovers. So Rover P5B, Rover P6B, the Morgan Plus 8, the Range Rover, the MGB GT V8, the Triumph TR8, the Rover SD1, which I believe is what he drove around in the classic touring car race.
That was the race, yep.
The TVR 350i, the Disco, the Defender, and the Sisu NA140 BT all-terrain transport vehicle.
Click it. Let's see what happens. Oh, it's a tank.
Oh, snap, it is a tank.
Yeah, that's pretty rad. They also had some, the big thing, too, is they call them kit cars, but like the Westfields. Some of the faster Westfields, which is the Lotus 7 replica, use these.
Yes.
Aluminum V8, and I think, God, that'd be a fun car.
Mm-hmm. And it had a lot of variations in terms of size. Apparently, it was extremely adaptable to being bored out. 3.5, 3.9, 4, 4.5, 5 liter are some of the ones he talked about. Looking at the list here online that we found, there's a 4.2, 4.3, 4.4.
Yeah.
A 4.6.
A lot of TVRs, a lot of Range Rovers. It's basically like it was just the workhorse of the entire Rover line for quite a while.
Yeah. For the better part of 4 decades, if you got a V8 in a Rover car or truck, it was this V8.
It's crazy.
It was the same block, the same, casting, presumably, maybe with a little bit of modifications. But it was
Boulder Wildcat uses it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So anyway, it was it was finally ceasing production. That was the reason for bringing it here with a 37-year life. And Richard wanted to send it out in style, I guess, by not racing well. But
yeah, he went and got in a classic touring car racing challenge. I wish they would have spent more time on this. It looked like a lot of fun.
It did, and cheapish.
They said about 10,000 pounds could get you into this thing, including the car.
Yeah, which is something.
Which is not bad at all for something as big as like a full-on motor car race. But yeah, he was in an SD1 that had almost no modifications to it. A lot of cars there were like race cars. So he had one other SD1 that was driven by a novice that he tried to best. But it turns out he did not have the guts in the straights. He really, surprisingly, all things said and told, he was really let down by his engine in this touring car race.
Yes.
So not a very good homage to the Rover V8.
Yeah.
You know what was the successor of this, Jeff?
What?
The modular.
Of course.
It's brutal.
Modular.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you will live on in history, Mr. Rover V8. Maybe someday I'll buy a Defender and own one of you.
Just buy a P6B. Those things are badass.
Super hard to find, though.
All right, Jeff, let's talk about Martin Clunes.
Who's Martin Clunes? I don't really know this guy. Are you super familiar in your brief stay overseas?
I knew of him.
Okay.
He's a goofy dude.
He is a goofy dude.
Goofy looking guy.
He looks like a monkey.
He's got some big ears. Yeah. That's for sure. He's got British ears to the nines. He apparently he was most known for Men Behaving Badly, which is a show I didn't watch. I don't know where I saw him, but he's definitely been around over there. He's a big time just character actor in British television and British movies world.
He seemed interesting, and honestly, it wasn't a bad interview.
It was a great interview.
I thought it was.
I liked him because he's a woodworker in his off time.
Indeed, he is. He had a cool car collection too. He talked about a Volvo Amazon, a couple of VW buses. I think the newer stuff. He had a 6 Series, but it started out with a Hillman Minx, which is like, it looks like the Ford in Harry Potter, but it's not. But still.
He's got a 1977 van that he's like doing up. Yeah. I thought that would sit well with you.
Right
he's
up my alley.
Converting an old van. Yeah. This guy is the British version of you and me plus like more ear.
Yeah. Yeah. He's kind of like a British hybrid. Yeah, plus ear.
That's exactly right. Plus like 2.5 times more ear.
I did like I can't remember which car it was he was talking about, but he was talking about having Recaro seats in one of his cars, and he was like, I like the Recaro seats, but I don't have a Recaro ass.
Every time I look at racing seats, I go, no, it's not for me.
No go. And yeah, so he was obviously not particularly well versed in the fast driving, but doesn't mean he didn't try. He was a brave one.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he's a big time van and apparently tractor kind of guy. Yeah. So throwing a little reasonably priced car around is not what he normally does. But yeah, he did a 150, which again is pretty good.
It's right in the middle. I mean, that's kind of our new benchmark. You do 150, you're not terrible. You are middle of the road.
He's as fast as Clarkson and Lionel Richie.
All right.
Let's touch briefly, Jeff, on this Skoda Fabio VRS little challenge they did.
Yeah, it's a VRS. I said BRS up front. I was all sorts of wrong.
It's a VRS. It is a, I guess, a diesel version of a hot hatch from Skoda.
Skoda.
And they're comparing it to a Mini Cooper in a drag race, right?
No, they do it around the track.
They were racing each other.
Wheel to wheel,
one of those kind of dogfighting ones around the track, and they were trying to see if diesel has caught and surpassed gas as a performance fuel, I suppose.
Yes, fair enough.
If diesel cars can do just as good as gasoline cars, which is obviously the norm around racetracks and stuff. And I don't really understand this as far as that comparison goes, because you get the Skoda Fabio, which obviously just has more power than a run-of-the-mill Mini, and it just passes it in all the straights.
It is,
and then,
yeah.
This is just a comparison of two cars. It's almost completely irregardless. It's almost completely useless to know what fuel they run on.
It's interesting. I mean, I can see the comparison because looking at the characteristics of the engines. I mean, they're going through, looking through some of the stats on this thing right now, and like its 0 to 60 time is like 9.6 seconds, which is just not fast at all. But then you look at the 20 to 40 time, which is an odd little one, but it's as fast as a Lotus Elise, because once you get into the torque band, you get the turbo spooled up. Like that thing is, I mean, it does have significantly more torque than it does horsepower, as is typical of a diesel engine. So
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting. I mean, like coming off the line, yeah, it's going to be slow, but then once it gets the power bands and kind of gets into it, it's So I kind of see what they're doing, but it was a little.
I
odd.
suppose. I don't know. I think ultimately what we got down to is a car that had a little bit more power on the straights and not very good handling was racing a car that had a little less power on the straights and a little better handling. And it turns out on this particular track, there's more straight areas than there are handling required areas.
Giant figure eight, so yeah.
So the Skoda won,
Yep.
I just wanted to touch on, I didn't really understand the point of it.
It's kind of odd. It's it's in this article that I'm reading, not the first diesel hot hatch. They don't tell me what is, because I really want to know now. But that is a VW engine, for whatever that's worth. I guess, that could be it. Some of the early VWs, like the Rabbit and whatnot, or maybe a Renault or something, came in a cool diesel, but
let's assume it was a VW.
Yeah.
Because VW and diesels is just poetic.
Yep.
These days.
Chips and carrots. That's not a thing.
It's really not.
Not at all. But anyway. Hey, Brady. Hey, Brady, can we talk about the 4GT yet?
Oh, yeah, we can, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, this would be the second or third time. It was in the studio during episode 1.
Yeah, like a pre-pro super
Yeah,
really funny one with the motorized hatch in the back that went up in 45 seconds.
It also had the actuated fuel filler cover.
Yeah, it had some goofy features that thankfully did not seem to make it into the production model, because why would you add that kind of weight to this fun?
The second version, Jeremy went over and tested in America, and he loved it.
Yep.
So much that he wanted to buy one. And then we had a lot of mentions of it throughout season 2 and 3 because he was trying to buy one. And now we're finally here, Jeff.
Yes, and we find out that they are only bringing 28 to the UK. But
28 is so few.
So few, and he's getting one.
Jeremy gets one.
Yes, he does.
Good for you, Jeremy.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Don't let your dreams be dreams, Jeremy. We've already talked about this car once.
Yeah.
It's fantastic in every way.
I did like the I'm glad they had a GT40 there to show some comparison. Like him getting in the GT40 and like smushing his head with the door was super funny. And that showed that he needed the extra 3 inches in this should be the GT43 to really fit.
I want to know why. Every time I look at a GT40 or this one, why are the doors? Why are you the way you are?
Yeah, I agree.
What is the benefit? There's certainly not a structural benefit to it.
Not that I could really think of. I mean, you get a little more
only
angular rigidity, maybe. Oh.
I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so either.
So I'm not 100% sure why that is. That'd be a really interesting discussion to have. But it prohibited someone from over a certain height to get into it. That being said, it was a race car. It was not a production car, really. It was a race car.
Yeah.
And race car drivers are all small because you want them to be small.
Like
so
jockeys.
It wasn't a huge issue. Yeah. But it is a breath of fresh air for Jeremy, at least, that he can actually sit in this one. That being said, I bet he's probably rubbing his head against it.
It's got to be close. And he's got that seat all the way back and down. But it was, I feel like I recall him seeing him in other episodes having issues getting in and out. And this one, he kind of plopped right in, and there he goes.
Yeah, I guess later on in this episode, he has issues getting in a normal parking spot sort of size, but that's just because it's got a long door with those overhead flap things.
Yeah, you kind of gotta snake your way in.
God, I feel like there's got to be ceiling issues too. It's right above. You got to have drips. And
I'm sure it's not perfect, but it's so pretty. It doesn't matter.
It really doesn't. It is gorgeous. It is a gorgeous car in every way. Yeah, it's amazing to me that the first one came out in the 60s.
Yeah, and they just look so similar.
They did a really good job, but the first one in the 60s is an epiphany. It is cars that age did not look this sleek.
Yeah.
And they did a great job. They did the best thing they could have done, and we talked about this before, which is completely, perfectly mimic it in the way it looks. But making it a lot more usable. 3 more inches is not going to break the bank. This is already, I mean, I've stood next to one of these, and is easily the lowest car I've ever been next to.
So low, yeah.
And it's 3 inches taller than the predecessor.
I think I want to say I measured the Exocet, my race car, which is stupid low. And I think it was at like 47.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was like, I just can't imagine hacking 4 more inches off that thing. I am almost sitting on the ground in that car, and my helmet hits the roll cage if I'm not hunched a little.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This ultimately, this thing has 550 horsepower and 500 foot-pounds of torque. Comes in at 212 miles an hour top speed, which is very fast.
So fast for that power too.
Helped out a lot by, I'm sure, by actual aerodynamics.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just a 5.4 liter supercharged V8 from. I guess it probably comes from a lot of things.
It's the Ford modular.
It's the modular, but I think maybe a little more straight taken from the Ford Lightning, which was the Raptor predecessor, essentially.
Yeah, except for it was not good at all off-road.
No,
but
it was terrible.
This engine it's just bulletproof. Like, the thing is just completely... so there's a company, I think I've talked about them before, probably in the last time we talked about the GT, but called Hefner. And they twin turbocharge these. They take off the supercharger, twin turbo them up to like 900 horsepower or something ludicrous, and they don't have to touch the internals because the thing is so stout.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably bulky and overweight, but it's strong and durable.
Yeah. It's the car has a curb weight of 3350 basically, so it's not a lightweight, but that's not heavy.
It seems a little heavy for what you want it to be. I suppose it's not a race car. The old one was. This one's more of a street car. But I feel like you could have lightened that up quite a bit.
Potentially, like taking out that giant subwoofer mounted between the seats.
Yeah, you don't really need
25 pounds right there. It's he goes on about how much he likes it, and how he doesn't want to get out of it, to the point that he runs it out of gas in the track, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm looking through some of the other interesting things about this one, and they had in the standing mile, it hit 209. This is a modified one, but 293 miles an hour. Which is a modified drivetrain with the 5.4 liter V8 twin turbo and meth injection, but largely otherwise stock. 2,500 horsepower. That's
293.
293.6, almost 300 miles an hour. That is so out of control.
Whoa.
The funny thing too is they have the EPA fuel gas mileage estimates on this. And they said it's 12 city, 19 highway. Jeremy got 4.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
he's race car driving.
The guys were really joshing him for that, but you're not hooning it the way Jeremy was around the track to work every day. That being said, I mean, a car that light is probably could get more, but that's not what you're doing with it.
Not really.
The point.
No.
Jeff, the most important thing, though, he was hooning it round the track, but the Stig also put it round the track.
As he is wont to do.
It is our power lap for today, and I'm so excited.
So excited. Especially with the price. It's just not that expensive. $111,000.
No, 4G, especially for the speed it did. 4GT, 111,000 pounds. It did, in the dry, a 121.9, which is very fast. It's not tippity top of the list because it's not a 300,000 pound hypercar.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very high. Jeff, before we get to the scores, what is your desirability for this?
14.
Yeah, well, super hard 10 for both of us. I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I already typed it in. There's no way it wasn't going to be a hard 10. All right, drum roll. What do you think this is going to put it?
Oh, it's the price is still going to affect it a bit, but I'm going to say like high, the lower side of the top 10, so probably like 7th, 6th.
Second overall.
Wow. Okay,
second overall. It split our Porsche GT3 and GT3 RS.
Okay.
It is just 1 point behind the GT3. It's very good. It's very good.
It really is.
Its modified lap time was only 0.7 seconds slower. It is 40 pounds more expensive, which is what ultimately got it.
40 pounds or 40,000?
Sorry, it was 40,000 pounds more expensive. Yeah, it is second overall, just ahead of the GT3 RS and just behind the GT3.
All right. That is a fitting place for this car.
Extremely fitting. I was very much hoping it wouldn't be low because of price, but 111 is not bad.
Yeah. I found a pretty interesting article, as we'll find later, and as any longtime watcher of Top Gear knows, Clarkson has some trouble with his GT, but he's got a very good article about this and about his trials, but also just the joy of driving the thing and like how it's so American. I feel there's like so much just brute force stuff, but like it's meant for cruising. He's talking about like he can cruise at 100 miles an hour at 1900 RPM and get 15 miles per gallon.
Nice. Yeah, I mean it's very low, very sleek. You're gonna not really be pushing too much air around.
Yeah, you're cutting right through. So
I love this car.
It's so good. Now normally this is how we'd end, but then they just tacked on this odd but acceptable challenge.
Why was this not the other way around?
I don't know. But I remember this is another one that like came to mind. I was like, what are they doing? Oh yeah, they're blowing cars over.
Yep.
With the 747.
Yep. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one.
It is. Yeah, they go through. I mean, this is presumably a 747-400. I gotta double check that now.
I think they specifically say
it's a Virgin Atlantic Boeing 7. It's probably a 400. They go through some stats on that. Holds 386 passengers. Can go 575 miles an hour. Has 4 engines producing 58,000 pounds of thrust each, and you can park 45 cars on the wings, which is cool, I guess. It's not a good place to park, but
it's not going to be good for the wings or the cars, really.
No, everything's going to break. The one thing that I like the most, so they're basically the gist of it is they're pushing cars behind it to see what happens when you're in the jet wash. But Hammond mentioned that if they have to, they're running the engines basically at peak thrust, and if they do that for more than 20 seconds, they start ripping up the runway.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's really hard to wrap your head around thrust as a force because you never really experience it. You don't ever. I mean, I guess pilots get to push the throttle forward, but it's pushing something so big that it's kind of hard to get that translation. Like a lot of horsepower in a light car, you feel it immediately, and it's overpowering. But you just think it's air. It's just a big fan. It's just blowing air.
Yeah.
But it can rip tarmac off the ground.
Yeah. I mean, I assume there's some level of that kind of is like melt it a bit and then just whoosh, blow it away.
Yeah, probably. A little bit of A, a little bit of B.
Yeah. Just bonkers though. And I like their car selection. They push 2 out there: a Ford Mondeo, which is very often mentioned, and a 2CV, which is hilarious because that's just like a shed on wheels.
It's a flat-sided like tough shed.
Yeah,
made way worse.
To be fair, that one lands on its wheels, not in good shape, but it does land upright.
The only thing I have to say about this is it really did blow those cars a long way. It's not terribly surprising, though.
No.
But it blew them a long way, which is fun to watch. And then it was the Lord of the Rings music playing in the background.
You were way onto these songs. So
yeah,
right.
It's the nerdery out. It's the music that they play whenever they cut to the Uruk-hai in Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers.
Can you put in the nerd?
I can cut in the Lord of the Rings Uruk-hai sounds.
Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
Just do both. We're good.
Okay.
The only thing I had to mention was both on the Wikipedia description of this episode. They say that they push out a Ford Mondeo and a more primitive Citroen 2CV (parentheses) both unmanned. Which is a bummer. Just in case you were curious, or concerned for the health of the Stig or somebody.
I'll also comment that because of the unique way the BBC is funded, they don't take too kindly to corporate logos in the background. It kind of seems like advertising.
Yeah.
So in some of the shots, the Virgin Atlantic tail fin and logo is blurred out, but maybe 20% of the shots. Every other shot just got Virgin Atlantic plate
That's
on
funny.
it.
Just
I
blatantly,
I noticed the one time I saw the blur, I'm like, why did they blur that? And then like it cut again, and it was just the logo. I'm like, why didn't they blur that? What is going on here?
drunken editing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, they didn't pay us. I'm only doing it once though. Going on break.
Going on break.
That's the pressure. Well, I think that wraps us up for the week.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us. If you enjoyed the episode, maybe head on over to iTunes, give us a rating and a review. That would help us out a lot. If you would like to consume the podcast in another method, we also post the podcast onto YouTube. Maybe that's a better way for you to listen at work or at home or wherever you want to be.
Yeah, and we have a Facebook page as well where we put up things, all sorts of automotive related articles and whatnot. Yeah, it's half Brady, half me typically, sometimes a little more Brady, but good articles on there. And then I'm gonna cross promote. We if you're looking way down in our feed on the podcatcher of choice, you'll find some episodes that have titles that are DIOMGY. And that's kind of a little mini podcast thing we started with that we found out it's kind of hard. It's our fun DIY projects. We found out it's not always, they don't follow schedules as well as Top Gear does. So hard to keep up at times, but we do keep those alive in our YouTube and Instagram channels. So if you search on YouTube or on Instagram for DI Oh My God Why, you will find us. And there are some fun projects going on right now. Brady has a lot of woodworking. I'm building a school bus into a small camper of sorts. So
Just like Martin Clunes.
yeah, exactly. Me and my British monkey brother over there, we are kindred spirits. So that's gonna wrap it up for us this week. So on that note, we'll see you here next week for Series 4, Episode 9.